So we're up to Daf Yomi Aleph. The last thing the Gemara said is that Rav Chia listed, our Mishnah listed 4 avos, Rav Chia listed 24, Rav Oishia listed 13, and then Rav Chia listed 24. So the Gemara asked, why didn't anyone else list Rav Chia's, Rav Chia's 24? So we said, B'knasa loy kamayri. We didn't want to talk about knasus. Okay. So then the Gemara said, what about a ganef and a gazlin? That's not a knas. The answer is that was included in Rav Oshia's shomer chinam. I said, why did Rav Chia list shomer chinam and a ganef and a gazlin? The answer is, it's 2 different forms of theft. One is theft that you began as a thief, and one is that you were originally a shomer and then became a thief. So, because it's the same result, but it's different ways to go about it, and different, reasons to be machmer or mekel. The Rav Chia counted both, but basically Rav Oishia did not count the additional 11 of Rav Chia because he did not want to count knosses, penalties. He only wanted to count things that you have to pay because it's actually monetary damage. So the Gemara says, beginning of Hamad Aleph, Eidim Zaymin said, how come Eidim Zaymin are not in the list? Dimamaynahu, listening, right? Eidim Zaymin again is that if I lie falsely under oath that you owe him $100, I have to pay $100. So that's not a penalty. I mean, it's a debate, but pashtus, it's not a penalty. Pashtus is I did damage to you. I slandered your name and made you, obligate $100 in court, so I have to pay for that. So if it's not a knas, then why is it not listed? The answer is Savla Rav Akiva. The answer is Rav Oishia follows Rav Akiva, who feels that Eidim Zaymin are a knas. Right? This is a machlekes in the beginning of Makis. How do you perceive Eidim Zaymin? Do you perceive it as a monetary damage that you're paying for, or is it a penalty? So Rav Akiva holds that it's a penalty. So Rav Oishia holds like Rav Akiva, and therefore he did not list it because he did not list penalties in his Mishnah. Da'amar, as Rav Akiva said, now Rav Akiva never outright said it's a penalty, but this is Rav Akiva's way of saying it's a penalty. Ein mashalmin al pi atzmai, that you do not pay for your own admission. The halacha is that when you admit, if I go over to you and I say, I admit I stole $100, I have to pay $100. But if, let's say, I admit to a penalty, so I say that I stole a sheep and I butchered it. The halacha is I only pay 1. I don't pay 4 or 5. Why? Because you do not pay for a penalty under your own admission. If a person admits to a penalty, he does not pay. That's the halacha by knossos. Ein mishamar pi atzmai. So Rav Akiva said that if a person comes forward and he says, hey, I lied falsely under oath, I was an Eid Zaymin, you do not have to pay. Why? Because it's a knas. So, i.e., it's a knas. So Rav Akiva holds it's a knas. So the reason why Rav Oishia did not list Eidim Zaymin in his Mishnah is because he follows Rav Akiva. Here's the problem. If you follow Rav Akiva, then we have an issue with what we said yesterday. Yesterday we asked a question, which is Rav Oishia listed 13. So we said, in the 13, he listed men multiple times. Mave, which is man, and then he listed Tsar, Nezek, Riboy, Sheves, and Boishes, which is all men. So we said, why? So we said, because one is a man hitting an animal, and one is a man hitting a man. If a man hits an animal, that's mave. If a man hits another man, that's tsar, nezek, ripa, sheves, and boishes. So then the Gemara said, that was yesterday. That was yesterday. Then the Gemara said yesterday, that was by Adam. Why? Let me start again. Now, Adam is listed twice in Rav Oshia's list of 13. Why is an Adam listed twice? One is where an Adam is mazik Adam, one is a mazik Adam and mazik shar. Then the Gemara said, so why not list shar twice? Shar de mazik shar, shar de azik Adam. So the Gemara said, because there's no difference in payment. A shar is mazik shar, he pays. A shar is mazik Adam, he pays. By an Adam, there's a difference, because when Adam is mazik shar, he pays what he damaged. When Adam is adik Adam, he pays tsar, nezek, riba, sheves, and boishes. So Rav Oishia is not just interested in listing every case. He listed 2 forms of Adam because there's difference in methods of payment. But as opposed to a shar, which is mazik, it doesn't matter. Here's the problem. If Rav Oishia is now following Rav Akiva, and that's why he doesn't list Eidim Zaymin because it's a knas, Rav Akiva actually holds there's a difference in payment whether a shar is mazik a shar or whether shar is mazik an Adam. The difference is that we know that when a shar is mazik another shar, the first 3 times you pay half penalty. The 4th time you pay full. Seemingly, same thing if it damages a person. Damages a person, First 3 times half, 4th time full. Not Rav Akiva. Rav Akiva holds that when a shar is mazik in Adam, he pays full price from the beginning. So the question is like this: if you taka hold like Rav Akiva, so then if you're going to go with Rav Akiva, you should list shar twice. Because according to Rav Akiva, there is a different method of payment regarding whether a shar is mazik shar or a shar is mazik adam. If a shar is mazik shar, you pay half. A shar is mazik adam, you pay nezik shalim. So why, if you're going to go with Rav Akiva, fine. You're going to say that you're following Rav Akiva, and then go with Rav Akiva. Then you should list shar twice. So the Gemara says, you've only done 2 lines, my goodness. If you hold like Rav Akiva, list Nitrei Gavne Shar, then list Shar twice. List Nishar Dazik Shar, list Nishar Dazik Adam. You should list a Shar that's Mazik Shar, and a Shar that's Mazik Adam. Ditnan, as we said, this is later on, Rav Akiva says, Af Tam Shechava Ba'adam, if a Shar that's a Tam, he's never damaged anybody before, but he hurts a person, Mishalim B'Moisa Nezik Shalim. You paid Nezik Shalim. Unlike where it's mazik ashar, where it pays chatzi nezik. So, because Rav Akiva holds that there is a different method of payment, how so? Because normally it's half, but over here it's you pay full nezik shalim. So why isn't it listed? So the Gemara answers very interesting. The reason why I didn't want to list shar de azik adam, why would we list shar de azik adam, is because it's a different payment. How so? Normally you pay half, but now you pay full. You don't always pay full, because Rav Akiva's shita is that you don't pay meitav. Right? We spoke about this 2 days ago. There's a chiddush by Karen, that by Regel. Regel? Regel? 1 second. There's a chiddush by Karen, that by Karen you do not pay aliyah, meaning normally if I damage you, I pay the damage. It doesn't matter if my ox damages your ox, it pays the damage. It doesn't matter the value of my ox. But we said there's a big chiddush by Karen that you do not pay more than the value of the ox itself. So I'll give you an example. You have a $1,000 ox that destroys a $50,000 ox. So you'll say, well, you pay half. That's 25. No. That's true by Regel, that's true by Shane, not by Karen. By Karen, you just say, listen, I'm paying you $1,000. That's the value of my ox. I'm not paying more than the value of the damager. Rav Akiva feels the same thing when a shar is mazik in Adam. You only pay the value of the shar. So because of that, to say that by a shar that's mazik Adam you pay full, not all the time. Because many times you won't pay full, because often the ox that's damaging is not valued to the same way as the person. So just to say that you automatically pay full, it's a little misleading. So we originally said, why not, if you hold like Rav Akiva, you should say 2 oxes. Why? Ox that's mazik shar is chatzi nezek. Ox that's mazik adam is nezek shalom. The answer is, it's not always nezek shalom. Because you also only pay, you're capped. There's a cap. So because there's a cap, it's not always nezek shalom. So we didn't want to list 2 shars, because then you'll say, well, nezek shalom, but that's misleading, because it's not always nezek shalom. There's a cap. So because of that, he didn't want to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Isn't that with every case?
That is true, but I guess he didn't want to start saying that there's 2 different forms of payment by a keren, by a shar, because then you'll just sort of you'll be like, oh, chatzi nezek shalom, and then you'll just think nezek shalom all the time, but it's not really true. You are right. That is true with every keren. But I guess he didn't. I guess to keep into Eimisham Lagufa Yeshul Misnagabi Avos. I guess the point is, the way Tais explains, to list it in the Mishnah of Avos, it's sort of like unequivocal all the time. And you hear Nezek Shalom, you're thinking Nezek Shalom. That's not true, because statistically it's probably very often not Nezek Shalom, because Nezek Shalom is paying for the value of the person, but you're capped by the value of the ox. So the point is, it didn't want to list it
separately too short.
Correct. They didn't want to list it as its own av, because it's not, the category is not as wide sweeping. I guess that's why. That's it. The Gemara says, Rav Akiva cut down his own shita. Meaning the reason why we didn't want to list Rav Akiva, that if a shar that's azik adam, it's nezik shalem, and it's an own av, because it's not always nezik shalem, because there's a cap. The Tanya of Akiva Omer, Yochel tam shechavel ba'adam yishal min aliyah. You might think there's no cap. Tam aloymar yasolay megufay mishal min aliyah. There is a cap. So because there's a cap, meaning, and the cap is the value of the ox that damages. So that's gonna oftentimes it's not gonna get to nezek shalom. I hear your point. Your point is, but still right it, and then if it does, it does. It does, it doesn't. I guess the point is, Tais is saying for it to be an av nezikin, you want a little more definitive across the board. You don't want as much, depending on the situation. You want just like clean. Okay. Let's go weiter. So now, again, we're still bothered by why did Rav Oishia list 13 and not 24? So the rule was he did not list penalties. Okay. Now we're going to go through some of the other ones that he omitted. We're going to try to figure out why. So we've already asked about Eidim Zomin. We've already asked about Ganef and Gazlin. Now we're going to ask by Onus and Mafata. So the Gemara wants to know, why did he exclude Onus, Mafata, and Motzi Shemra? Now, Dimamono, you see, because, when you, God forbid, if someone rapes a woman, you have to pay a lot. You'll have to pay the pain, you'll have to pay embarrassment, you'll have to pay medical fees, you'll have to pay not going to work if it causes her not to work, and then you have to pay the 50 shekel penalty of the Torah. So the Gemara is saying, I understand there's the penalty element, but there's other elements as well. So it's not just penalty, there's mammon. So just why isn't it listed? So the Gemara's answer is very obvious. The Mishnah listed tsar, nezek, ripoy, sheves, and baishas. The Mishnah listed the main categories of payment. In onus, what would you like? Why would you like to list it? Because you have to pay tsar, it's already listed. You have to pay nezek, it's already listed. Tsar, ripoy, listed. Sheves, listed. Baishas, listed. The only thing that's unique about an onus and mafata is that, as opposed to every other damage that you punch someone in the face, is that there's a 50 penalty. And the answer is penalty is not listed. Meaning the reason why we're not going to list it is because it's just an example of damaging. The only thing that makes it unique, as opposed to any other damage, is that there is a penalty, but we don't list penalties. So because of that, the Gemara says, Manavshach, nezek. What makes it unique? Is it the nezek tanile that's already listed? Itzar tanile, iboishes tanile, ipagam tanile. Ainu nezek. Ma'isla what makes it unique? Knasa, the penalty. B'knasa lekamari. We're not listing penalties. Okay, let's keep listening. What else did he omit? Hamatame v'amadame v'amenaseach. If I go into your property and I go to your barrel of wine and I make it yayin nesech, I pour it for yashka, or so I cause you money to be lost, I have to pay you. Or I go into your property, I'm tameh and I touch your fruit. Or I take truma and I mix it into your fruit. Those are penalties you have to pay. Not penalties, those are damages you have to pay. So how come he omitted it? The answer is like this. Why do you have to pay? So there's a famous machlokes throughout Shas called hezek she'eino nicker, which is I cause you damage, but it's like a spiritual damage. No one saw it. Like there's no scanning. There's no black eye. It's a spiritual damage. Now, if you hold hezek she'eino nicker, shmei hezek, then I have to pay because I damaged you. But it's already listed in nezek.
Is this a physical damage
No. I went into your bottle of wine and I touched it having in mind for Buddha.
It's only a spiritual.
Correct. It's spiritual. It's not clear at all. I mean, by the way, it doesn't have to be spiritual, I guess. Like I could it might be forms nowadays, like with computers, like maybe you could coding or something that would cause damages. I don't know. But the point is, over here, the Gemara's example, it's hezek she'eino nicker. So if you hold shmei I'll answer the question of why it's not listed very simply. Manashach, why do you have to pay? If I go in and I take your wine and I make it into yayin nesach, I have to pay. There's two options. Either because hezek she'eino nicker shmei hezek, and that's called a damage, then that's damage, as I already listed. If it's hezek she'eino nicker lo shmei hezek, which is actually, I don't have to pay for that, so why do I have to pay? It's a penalty, and it's a penalty. Then and penalties we don't list. Manashach, it's going to be covered, because if it's called hezek she'eino nicker shmei hezek, then this is a classic example of a damage. It's a chiddush that it's a non-physical damage, but it's a damage, which you could have seen, by the way, the Mishnah is saying, but I wanted to list that. Okay, fine. And if you hold lo shmei hezek, so why are you paying? There's a penalty. I don't list penalties. So that's the Gemara says, Manavshach, I hezek she'eino nicker shmei hezek. If the Tana of our Mishnah feels hezek she'eino nicker shmei hezek, and that's why you pay, hatana le'nezek, it's already listed. And I hezek she'eino lo shmei hezek, and if you hold it's not hezek, have the knasa. So why are you paying? Because it's a penalty. But knasa like a marry. So it's moving right along. I told you yesterday after the daf, I'm mamish everything in physicality is rooted in Torah. This is mamish what they're doing in Gaza, line by line, just rooting out like these dafim are slow, methodical. Let's keep going. Exactly. So now Rav Chia listed Metame, Menaseach, and Medame. So that Rav Oishia didn't, because Rav Oishia said, Manoshach, if it's Hezek Shenikar Shmei Hezek, it's Hezek. If it's not Hezek, it's a penalty. So why did Rav Chia list it? Oh, so the Gemara says,
Sorry.
or Rav Chia? What meaning? Why did Rav Chia list it?
Hold like Rabbi Akiva that a knas is allowed to be listed as considered nezek. Like,
Oh no, I think he's Rav Chia is listing Knossos.
yeah,
Rav Chia is coming. Oh, so
said we don't list
correct. So the Gemara says, "Lemek sav Rav Chia hezek shenikar lo shmei hezek, di shmei hezek katanale nezek." No, true. Rav Chia is comfortable listing hezek. He's also comfortable listing Knossos. Rav Chia is comfortable. So the question is, but what does Rav Chia hold? So it must be that he holds it's a Knas. Why? Because if it's a regular hezek, then he's already listed hezek. The fact that he listed a separate time is that it's a special thing called a Knas. The Gemara says no. Hatanale hezek. The answer is Tana hezek. The mikra for talking hezek like a mikra. Really, no. It's called a hezek. So why did Rav Chia list it? He doesn't look at it as a Knas. So why did he list it? The answer is Rav Chia wanted to list different forms of hezek. There's hezek where the damage is visible, and there's hezek where the damage is not visible. And Rav Chia felt that was noteworthy enough to list. Okay. Here's the Gemara's question. Our Mishnah, anytime the Mishnah lists, throughout Shas, anytime there's a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it tells you the number, it always does that for a reason, right? It could just say, Shar bar mava hever. I could count 4. It says, Arba avos. It's to exclude something. So you have the Mishnah that said Arba, you had Rav Oishia who said 13, and then listed 13, and then Rav Chia who said 24 and listed 24. So I understand why our Mishnah said 4, because, even though I could count, it's saying 4, not 13, not 24. Meaning, I know there are other lists out there, I'm not interested. I understand why Rav Oishia wrote the list of 13, and then wrote 13, because he's saying 13, not 24. Meaning, Rav Oishia is saying, listen, I'm going to list 13, I know there's 24 out there, I want 13 only. But the question is, why is Rav Chia, after writing 24, why does he say 24? He's not excluding anybody else, he's the most inclusive. So what is he excluding by saying 24? 24 is opposed to what? I know it's 24, I can count. So the Gemara says, I understand why our Tana lists 4 to the exclusion of Rav Oishia. Rav Oishia Tana min Yanel Muter Rav Chia. And Rav Oishia listed 13 to the exclusion of Rav Chia because he's saying 13 and not 24. The question, why is Rav Chia saying 24? I can count, it's 24. What is he excluding? Meaning, what did not make Rav Chia's list that he wanted you to say, I omitted it for a reason? The answer is 2. Moiser and Mefagel. Now, Moiser and Mefagel are cases where you have to pay, but Rav Chia did not want to list it. Now, let's go through each one. Pigel is where a kohen, when he's doing the carbon, he says or thinks, right? Really thinks. He's saying, it's not even speech, he's saying, as he's shechting it, he's saying, I'm going to burn this carbon next week. The halacha is, it's a disqualified carbon. Now think about that. By him doing that, carbonos are expensive. He made your carbon puzzle on purpose. He did this on purpose. He don't like you, he did it on purpose. Carbon is $1,000. He has to pay you $1,000. Rav Chia did not want to list that. We'll see why in a moment. And Meiser. Meiser is, we all know what Meiser is. Now Meiser nowadays is the guy, someone informs on the government. So you see someone calls. Unfortunately, this happens in this community fairly often, where someone calls the building department and says, hey, my next door neighbor is building. Yeah. And I'm not talking about whether there's a heter, whatever it is. Even if there's a heter, I don't think it's what Jews do. But you call the building department comes in, shuts him down, makes him take it down, thousands of dollars loss. Now, if they're allowed to call, that's one thing. But let's say the Rabbanim, you go to Bezdin, and the Bezdin says you were not allowed to call. Okay? There used to be a lady, not Jewish lady, she used to go up and down the street. Yeah. If you do that, you'll be Zaycha, you'll get your own park named after you. Right? She used to go up and down the street and say, that's illegal, that's illegal, that's illegal. Mamish call. Just be Meiser. Not like it's affecting my light and my neighbor. No, just go up and down the street. And the building department comes in, shuts them down. You could take them to court because they inform the government on you. If the government caused you $500,000 worth of damages, then they have to pay. Rav Chia did not list that either. Those are the 2 that Rav Chia did not want to list. Moiser and Mefagel. Now you have to pay. So the question is, why did Rav Chia not list it? And Rav Chia is comfortable with listing Knossos. Rav Chia is very comfortable. So why did he not list these 2? So the Gemara says, listni, so why isn't it listed? Bishleim Mefagel, because like I understand why Pigel he didn't want to list, because that's a whole world of kachim. Rav Chia wanted to deal with the day-to-day operations. He did not want to deal with things that are only related to the Beis Hamikdash. This is fun. But what about Meiser? Meiser is a very common application. So why did he not list it? Meiser, my time, aloitani. The answer is Shani Meiser de bedibura, ubedibura like Kamari. Rav Chia only wanted to list damages with actions, not damages with speech alone. Meiser, he's not doing anything, he's just talking. Rav Chia did not want to get into that category of talking. Adam Zayman, Moitzi Shemra, those are just speech. So let's go through each one. Moitzi Shemra, Dibidiburahu Katani. Moitzi Shemra is where a husband accuses his wife after the wedding that she is committed adultery. That's talk. There's no action there. So why Rav listed that? The answer is Dibur Disbei Maisa. It's a speech about an action. Over there, it's a speech, right? It's a speech about an action. He's saying, my wife committed adultery. So while it's just a speech, but it's speech that's saying, included in the speech, is referencing an action, as opposed to Meiser, which could just be speech for speech's sake, right? So, Meiser doesn't have to be, I give the example of a building department, but Meiser could be that the government is saying, hey, tell us everyone that has backyards. We want to know every Jew that has a backyard, we're giving penalties. So you just call, hey, he has a backyard. No nice at all, just talk. That's it. So, Moitzi Shemra, at least, is a speech about an action. You're saying your wife committed adultery. So you're saying your wife did an action. Okay. What about Adam Zayman? Adam made a good point. Adam Zayman is mamish nothing. But Adam Zayman doesn't even need to be about an action. Adam Zayman, you could get up and say that he's a meiser, he's a mamzer. You could say, I don't even have to say that anything was done. So the Gemara says, Adam Zayman dibur de lesbi maisu katani. Adam Zayman. The answer is Hasam avagav de lesbi maisu rachmana kari maisu. Adam Zayman, although there's no action, the Torah describes it as an action. D'chsiv asisim loy kasher zamam la'asos, that you do what they tried to do. So the pasuk describes it as an action. So therefore, Rav Chia felt more comfortable writing it. Okay. Bishloim elatani didan tana avis mechadik toldus. Rav Chia v'Rav Oishia avis mechadik toldus ein ma'niu. The Gemara is saying like this. I understand why our Mishnah calls them avos. Avos implies that there's subcategories, because our Mishnah is 4 main categories that each one could be layered back. Adam includes Shemachinam, Shemesach, whatever. Shar is this. Rav Chia listed 24. They're all covered. There is no Toldos. He listed literally everything. So there is no Toldos. So why are you calling it an Av? I mean, there's got to be another reason why he's calling it an Av, because I always think Av means there's subcategories. Our Mishnah listed 4. Even Rav Oishia listed 13. There were subcategories. Rav Chia listed 24. He listed all the categories and the subcategories. So why is he calling them avos? So the answer is, Rav Chia and Rav Oishia avos mechadik katol says imaniu. So why is Rav Chia and Rav Oishia, why are they calling them avos when they listed subcategories as well? The answer is kulan ki avos l'shalim emetav. The answer is when Rav Oishia and Rav Chia call them avos, it's not to say that they're avos that. Meaning, what is the purpose of calling them avos? It's not to say they're avos and there are toldos. No. They're avos meaning not that there are subcategories, but they're all avos that they all pay the same way. They're all in the same category of an av that they pay mimetav. This we reference in the first Mishnah, that let's say I owe you $1,000. I'm giving you land for $1,000. I can give you swampland, acres and acres of swampland, or I can give you a 1,000-foot parcel of my best land. That's called meitav. The halacha is that by arba avos nezikin, you have to pay by those 4 meitav. So Rav Chia and Rav Oishia, when they called the 13 and 24 avos, they weren't saying avos that they're subcategories. They're saying they're avos, meaning they all have that same halacha of an av that you pay with meitav. How do I know this? Ais yetachas nesina yishalem kesef. So this is, if we were doing like this be'in, I would spend a lot of time. I'm not. I'm sure Artsco probably has a chart. Yeah. But so basically, there's Abba Avos and Nezikin. Each one pays Meitav. Each one has a word that's unique, either Tachas, Nesina, Yishalim, or Kesef. All the other 24 have either one of those words as a Gzeir Shava. So the Gemara is not going through it. The Gemara is just saying, trust me, if you take all 24, all of them have either Tachas, Nesina, Yishalim, or Kesef, to learn out from the Arba Avos Nezikin to say Meitav. So, and Artsco probably has a list of which one has which. Yeah, because Rashi, this is a very, very long Rashi. Rashi says, okay, Rashi says, B'kulik siv oy tachas, meaning tachas is by shar, so each one has tachas, or Meitav, which is regel, and the point is, the Gemara, Rashi goes there. Let's go weiter. Then the Mishnah said, okay, let me explain what the Mishnah is going to do. I don't know if we're going to do this. It's a very short Amud Beis because it's a very, very long Rashi. I don't know if we'll do it. We'll see. The Mishnah said there are Arba Avos and Zikin. Okay, let me read a few lines of the Mishnah. It'll become very clear. 4 Avos and Zikin. The Mishnah then is bothered. Why does the Torah have to list all 4? Why can't I learn out from each other? And it said, Loi hare hashar kare hamave, loi hare hamave kare hashar. Shar and mava are not the same, because shar has uniquenesses that make it more guilty, that I would not be able to learn out mava. Mava has uniquenesses that make it more guilty, I would not learn out shar. So that's the Gemara is explaining, I can't learn out 1 from 1. Then the Gemara says, okay, learn out 1 from 2. The answer is, I can't. Why? Because Shar and Mava are both living, as opposed to Hever, which is fire, which is not living. Okay. Now, what the Mishnah is trying to do is showing how I need all 4 to be listed, because I can't learn out 1 from 1, and I can't even learn out 1 from 2. So I'll read a little Gemara, and then I'll show you a major issue with this. My Kamma, what is the Mishnah trying to say? Just write 1 av, and I'll learn out the rest. The answer is then the Mishnah shows that you can't. Almost on the Amud Beis. Then the Mishnah said, the 2 to 1, what's it trying to say? My Kamma, what is the Mishnah trying to say? Go to the next page. Just write 2 of the avos, and I'll learn out the other ones from it. And then the Gemara says, I can't. Now, what's interesting about this is, if you look at what the Mishnah says, the Mishnah does not do a very comprehensive job. There are 4. Right, we've done Gemara, we've done more than half a Shas. We're used to the flow. When there are 4 things and you want to prove I can't learn out 1 from 1 or 2 from 1, what you do is, you don't just list 1 example, you go through all of them. What the Mishnah said is, if the Torah just wrote Shar, which is Keren, and Mave, which is, let's say, Shane or Adam, I wouldn't be able to learn out fire from it because fire is not living. Okay, I guess you need all of them to be written. Not really, because, okay, great. I understand why you can't learn out fire from Shane and Karen. Understood. But maybe you could learn out bar from them. Or maybe you could learn out stuff from bar and Karen. Bar and Shane. Shane and Regel. Bar and Regel. On and on. The Gemara doesn't do that. The Mishnah doesn't do that. So the Gemara says, this is the very, very long Rashi where it shows charts. The truth is, oh, you have a chart? Good for you. Everyone after Daf can listen. Go to Gavin. Gavin has stuff from his high school days. Truth is, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but the truth is, if the Gemara were to elaborate all of it, you could learn out everything as long as one of the 2 is bar. Shane and Karen, if those are the 2, you can't learn out fire from it because fire is not living. If one of the 2 is fire, you can't learn out Karen from it because fire is Motzeh Hazeka, is very common. All of them have an issue, except if you take any of them with bar. Any of them with bar, you'll be able to learn out stuff from it. Because whatever you counter, bar will respond. You say, oh, this is Kavanase Lahazik. Well, bar is not, and it's chayiv. Well, this is Hanola Hazeka, it gets pleasure. Bar is not, and it's chayiv. So as long as you have bar and one other one, it's like a chess match. As long as give me bar and another one, I'll be able to win every single time. And Rashi proves how whatever the problem is, bar and another, whichever the one is, by the way, bar and Karen, bar and Shane, bar and Adam, bar and fire, you give me bar and another one, I'll be able to learn out at least one thing from it. So it's a real issue with the Mishnah because the Mishnah kind of implies that I need all of them to be written because I can't learn out from it. Not really. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava, Kulu kushadis bar binayu, as long as I have 1 av and a bar, Aisha kulu b'metzad, I'll be able to learn out everything except for Karen. Meaning, if you give me bar and fire, I'll be able to learn out Shane, Regel, except Karen. Why? Because Karen always has this trump card. Right? The premise is basically, if the Torah says I'm chayiv by bar, obviously I'll be chayiv by this, and you'll say, yeah, but bar is unique. That doesn't have. Well, I'm also chayiv by Shane. Well, but Shein has a unique is that this doesn't have. But bar yechiach. And what's the common denominator? You'd be able to learn that if you give me bar and another one, I'll be able to learn that every then except for Karen, because Karen has this uniqueness that none else has. That it is you only pay half price the first 3 times. So because of that, Karen is the hardest to learn out from the rest. So says the Gemara. Right, the common theme is that if I have A and B, right, and you both have to pay, so you'll say, learn out from A, but A has a uniqueness. Yeah, but B doesn't. So you see that uniqueness doesn't matter. But B has a uniqueness, but A doesn't. What's the common denominator? They do a damage, you have to pay. The answer is, if you give me bar and another one, I'll be able to learn out everything except for Karen, because when Karen is going up against it, I could always respond the same thing. You know what their common denominator is? Not that they have to pay, they pay full price. Karen doesn't. That's always the trump card. But if you give me bar and another one, I'll always be able to learn out something except for Karen. Now the Gemara says there are opinions.
Then what are the listed for in Karen?
Fair enough. Now the Gemara is going to get to that. Now, I will say this though. According to some opinions, Karen has a uniqueness that makes it more lenient, that you only pay half price. But it actually has a massive reason to pay, and that it's the only one that is kavanos lahazik. Karen is the only one that has thought process to do damage. It's the only one of the avos. Right? A person, it could be accidental, whatever it is. Fire doesn't have mind. Bar is stationary. Karen is the only one. So the Gemara says, actually, if you hold that element of it is more significant than the half price, you can actually learn out everything from bar and another one, even Karen. The Gemara says, so here's the deal. According to this,
So Karen means it's done on purpose?
Correct. It's goring. Yeah, it's goring. The animal wants to do damage. Now here's the deal. So this is what Adam pointed out. So now we have a massive issue, which is the Mishnah started off by saying, why do I need the Torah to list all 4 avos and zikin? Just list 1 and I'll learn out. Can't learn out 1. List 2, I'll learn out. Can't. The answer is, yeah, you can. Give me bar and Karen, I'm fine. Give me bar and Aish, I'm fine. Give me bar and Adam, I'm fine. Give me bar and Shane, I'm fine. So if that's the point, then why is the Torah listing all 4 if I could really learn out some from the others? So the Gemara says, you want to know why? The Gemara says, so then if I could learn out some from bar and another one, that's all you need. So why is the Torah listing all 4? The answer is, the Torah is listing all 4, not because there are uniquenesses that all 4 have. Meaning, the Torah is not listing all 4 to say, all 4 are obligated to pay. If it was just to say obligated to pay, you're right. Give me bar and Karen, I'll be fine. The answer is, the Torah is listing all 4 because all 4 has a uniqueness. Let's go through each one. There is a special chiddush by each nezek that the other ones do not have. And that's why the Torah is listed all 4. Karen, let's go through each one. Karen is l'chalik bin tam lamud. Karen is very obvious. There's a uniqueness to Karen, and that is the first 3 times you pay half price, the 4th time you pay full price. That is something that none other ones have. Shane and Regel is l'poichem b'shus harabim. Shane and Regel do not apply in Rishus harabim. That's also a uniqueness is that they have that others do not have. Ada abar is lifter by a sakelim. This is a big chiddush. We're going to get to later on. All these are based on psukim. If an animal falls into a pit, you have to pay for the animal. But if the animal has on its back a bottle of wine and the bottle of wine breaks, you do not have to pay for that. According to most Tanoim. That's a uniqueness by bar, that you have to pay for animals and people damage, but not for kalim. It's a special chiddush by bar. So the point is, the reason why bar is listed is not to say that I'm obligated to pay, because I could have figured that out. It's to say that I'm potter by kalim. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're chayiv for kalim. So why is bar listed? What's the uniqueness of bar? Lifter by esa adam. You don't have to pay for a person. The halacha is that if an animal falls into a bar, you have to pay, not if a person. If a person falls into a bar, you do not have to pay for it. Huh?
That's on him.
Yeah, you got it. You do not have to pay for it. Okay. Now, Sharvele Adam. Again, the Gemara will go through. That's why we listed bar. Why did the Torah list Adam? If you hold that Mava is Adam. L'chayve bar b'dvarim, because it has uniqueness that you have to pay for. Tsar, Nezek, Ripoy, and Baishas. Aish, why did the Torah list Aish? Lifter by a satamun. Yeah, this is a big sugya later on that we'll get to, is that if I burn down a field, I have to pay for the field. What if inside the field you hid a tractor? I don't have to pay for the tractor. Kalim that are hidden in the field that are not visible when the fire is made, you do not have to pay for it. So based on it's a chiddush hapasuk. So the reason why the Torah listed fire is to exempt for items hidden in the field. Okay. Ula Rav Yehuda mechayev on nizki tam be'esh l'suyim. I, according to Rav Yehuda, you have to pay for things hidden in the field. So what's the uniqueness of fire? La'asuyi licha niroi v'sicha avonav. The halacha is that you have to pay. Let's say I burn down your field and it goes to your house and it singes the stones. So the stones aren't ruined, but it singed it. They're black and I have to pay for that. That's a chiddush, because even though you could say it's still usable, right? It's a wall, it's still usable, but it's blackened, I have to pay for that. That's a chiddush of fire, and that's why it was listed. So the reason why all four are listed is not to say that you're chayiv and nezek. I know you're chayiv and nezek. It's to give these specific details. All right, we'll